how can you make my life miserable just because your mother died?
Yeah.
And nobody could control the power constructs.
Why is the burden of guilt and shame always on the woman?
I think it's the structure of how Africa is built and the value placed on honoring custom.
Did anybody try to show Shaka Zulu love or try to heal him from whatever trauma he was going through?
The loss of his mother's life, was it worth the lives of thousands of people, or was it too excessive? Imagine living in a society where your king says, no more planting of crops, I'll kill so many cows, like thousands of them. Nobody should show open affection. Nobody should show they're happy. We don't care if you're in love, if you're pregnant, if things are going well for you. We don't care. I'm mourning, and as your king, you must share in that pain with me. Now, that's the situation a lot of Zulu people found themselves in when Shaka was the king. Shaka was raised by his mother, a single mother, and he was the son of a chief. But when he was born, his mother was exiled because, she wasn't married to the king. And unfortunately, it was just the way things were. So they were exiled, and he grew up in his mother's, with his mother's people in their clan. And he was raised there, and he faced a lot of ridicule. Imagine being raised by a single mother, and there's this culture of, there's a system of right and wrong. So of course he faced teasings and ridicule, and those things shaped him. But his mother always instilled a sense of royal pride in him. And I think that was a driving force, because Shaka went on to become a mighty warrior and eventually a Zulu king. And of course he blessed and lavished his mother with riches and comfort. And so when she died, it was like his whole world was shattered. Imagine growing up with this one person, feeling like she's the only person that loves you in the whole wide world. Everybody else is making fun of you, feeling like your birth is an accident. And then this one person who means the world to you dies. Of course, you feel like your life has been shattered, and everybody must feel your pain. So can you guys imagine being in that society if your king decrees that don't plant, don't farm, don't harvest, don't be happy, don't be in love, and if you're in love you must hide it? Will you accept that and just quietly comply, or will you be like, what, to hell with the king, I'm living my life?
Fortunately for me, I love living, so I will do as the king pleases. Trust me, I wouldn't want to go against a king like that, who is mighty, who has all the power in the land, who loved his mother greatly. Honestly, I will share in his pain and do as he pleases. Because trust me, at that time, knowing Shaka Zulu, the story, he was a mighty warrior, a great king. Trust me, I wouldn't want to, maybe a regular citizen, maybe at that point or at that time, I might have been like a farmer. What would I do? Will I cultivate my way around the kingdom? I would obey and just, if the king wants it to be like this, so be it. We'll wait for the day when he says, everybody can eat, and finally we'll go about doing our things. But trust me, for this guy here, I would do as the king pleases.
How about you, Amal?
For me, I feel like this story is just the perfect definition of misery loves company.
Right.
And my compliance depends on what the punishment is. Because how can you deprive me from not even smiling because your mother is dead? I mean, we understand, but why shouldn't we be happy? Do you understand? So,
okay, the compliance, the punishment is death. So do you still want to comply, or you want to be stubborn? Just so you know.
Me, in all honesty, I am following the law.
You're following the law,
If
but
he
you're a
says-
lawbreaker. We know
But
you're a lawbreaker
as a
right now.
law-abiding citizen, right?
Yes, as
But
a
right
Nigerian,
now,
a patriotic
okay, are you
Nigerian.
saying in that your life? If
I'm
you were
saying in
that,
every life, I will follow the
but
law.
in this life, you're a lawbreaker.
This is unseen, right? So I think based in that time, because if you read the stories of Shaka Zulu, he is someone that was very villainous, and he was so hurtful. Like the things he had done to people doing, I would not break that law. I would not even try it. The only thing I can do maybe defect to another clan at best.
Okay,
but
you just migrate
I'll
and
migrate,
change your
but
identity.
I think I'll go with migration.
yes.
So you've changed your answer.
Yeah.
So for me, it depends. If I'm in love or I'm happy or good things are happening to me, I may have to, disobey the king.
And lose your
But
head.
if, I don't know, maybe I'll also migrate. I don't know. Or I'll hide and be happy. But if terrible things are happening to me, I'm also in mourning, I'm also in sorrow, I'll be like, like she said, misery needs company. Let's all of us be sad together.
Yeah.
So yeah, my answer or my reaction depends on how happy I am at that moment. That's just it.
And it really shows like the impact of which, like how much monarchy had like a lot of power. How can you make my life miserable just because your mother died?
Yeah.
And nobody could control the power constructs. He says it and it is done.
Done like that. And I mean, another point of view for me is the aspect where, he never felt a sense of love from his dad. He felt abandoned, and his mother was everything. And I think that that's common and very, very, very common in Africa. Most times you hear kids say things like, oh, they never experienced like a father's love.
Here we go attacking the dads again.
No, funny enough, listen to me. Because I remember when I first started going to school, and we got to a stage whereby we started talking about our parents, gisting about home. And for me, growing up, my dad was like a god to me, because me and my sister were just two. And we grew up with our daddies as best friends. When I go and I hear things that, oh, they have to do this, they have to do that. When their daddy comes in, they run inside. And for me, it was alien. Because I look forward to my daddy. Like, if I want to cry now, my daddy is the one person in the world that my brain goes to call. So I think that hearing that, I feel very sad, because it's so common these days. And this is also one of the reasons why he became what he is. She
was his everything.
She was his everything.
Yeah. So we understand that. But I have another question. Let's go back to that story. Why is the burden of guilt and shame always on the woman? Like, it was two people. He was the chief, a powerful man. Who knows if it was consensual or if it was, through coercion. You can't really say no to a powerful man. He was the chief of the land. So we don't know if she loved it, she loved the attention, or she felt she had to do it because he was the chief. So let's leave that one aside. We don't know. But two people were involved. If they really wanted to punish the people involved and call this person a bastard and cast him aside, why was only one party cast aside? The woman, the powerless person, was cast aside and left with her son to fend for themselves. It's a good thing that eventually he became a great person.
Yeah.
I think it's the structure of how Africa is built and the value placed on that institution called, should we call it marriage or honoring custom?
Right.
Obviously, like the story goes, she was a single mother. He did not, the chief was not there. Like you rightfully said, there's a possibility it was a one-time thing, or maybe it was consensual. Nobody knows that part of the story. But why would a woman, customary, some setting rights must and should have been done for that, should I call it the conception to take place? But that did not happen. It happened outside of custom and rights. And since that did not happen, that is why we found ourselves in this particular situation with Zulu and his mother. Maybe there could have been something they could have done, maybe like another ritual or rites to say,
he could have married her,
married her
chief,
and all
he
of
had
that.
power.
Exactly. But maybe at that point, since that did not happen, they now somehow just let them be. And I think that's the reason why. Because across Africa, that institution called marriage must be adhered to by following customs, traditions, and customs generally. So that's why I think it happened that way.
But was the death and mourning of so many people, the loss of, livestock and economic crops and all of that, the loss of so many people's lives, was it worth it? Like the loss of his mother's life, was it worth the lives of thousands of people, or was it too excessive?
I think, it was excessive, but yet again, maybe it stemmed from an unresolved trauma. His father not being in the picture. And at that time, I can imagine maybe a single mother trying to, hold the family or hold the fort, which involves him and her alone.
Yeah.
And aside that, maybe there were difficulties. Maybe she became an outcast. Maybe she went through everything to make sure he became who he became, and he owes everything he became to her. And now that, unfortunately, the cold hands of death took her away, he wants everybody to feel that pain. Maybe he was devastated, and because he was powerful, he wanted people to feel that pain, because someone that special, that precious, was taken away by the cold hands of death, and he wanted everybody to feel that pain as well. So for that reason, feel my pain. As your king, I am going through a whole lot. Journey with me along this dangerous path, or this terrible path, or this dark path I'm currently going through. So that's why I think he did what he did. If you ask me, did it make any sense? No. Was it excessive? No. If you ask me, it was even waste at that time because of all of those things. And imagine you not wanting to see people happy just because you are going through a whole lot. It dictates the kind of power he had at that time. True. And he exercised it to the fullest.
I think they say the plight of a man makes him who he is. So I guess the journey that he went through, from his mother being banished from their kingdom or their clan, and then through all the pains, the sorrows, and maybe he had a certain hatred towards his dad too. Due to the fact that he was banished.
Maybe it was revenge in his own way.
So I guess throughout all this journey, the traits, the pain, the sorrow that he had, he was just trying to put it back on everybody else.
But now that you mentioned that, it makes sense. If it's revenge, then I can understand. These are the same people, maybe not the same generation, but the same people who cast his mother aside, called him bastard, exiled them and all of that. So perhaps it was his way of taking revenge on the society that even has the dichotomy of who is a legitimate child and who is illegitimate.
Yes. And another thing is, aside power, I think that he didn't experience the right kind of love, because when the only kind of love that he knew left him, it brought about that rage in him. And sometimes I think that generally people, how they lead generally depends on their emotional state. When someone is unhappy, they want to make you feel unhappy too. They kind of push forth their insecurities towards you, because I don't know if to say it makes them happy or
I think they just mirror their insecurities on you, because it really shows that, because he grew up let's say without a father figure in his life, so maybe a certain point of control which he is meant to have, which usually a father bestows on the child, he didn't have that.
But I feel like Shaka's reputation for cruelty was exaggerated by colonial masters, because towards the end of his reign, that was when the British made contact and were colonizing and expanding and killing people and all of that. So perhaps they exaggerated it, especially since, he had organized the Zulu warriors into a formidable force that could fight them off and withstand adversaries. So perhaps they exaggerated all of that, just to make him. What do you think? Do you think it was exaggerated?
I think it can be exaggerated, because the saying goes who writes the story owns the narrative at the end of the day.
Exactly.
So nobody really knows the true idealistic picture out there, because back then Zulu culture is not even really written. They don't really have a lot of written history.
Oral history.
Oral history, not really documented. They usually go for poetic praises. That's what they do during their war chants and fights. So they don't really have a lot of oral written history. So we can only go based off of what we know.
Interesting.
Sometimes to kill a dog, you need to give it a bad name to do all that. So maybe they just concocted that to see how they can make it so vicious, justifying the actions they took, in massacring, these people, so to speak, if I can say it that way.
It goes back to show, what you said, that you have to picture a narrative on somebody to be able to idealize them in a way that the whole world will see them wrong, or a different idea, because the narrative you might be pushing might be the right one, but as he says, the story, whoever writes it, control it.
Just the way the colonial masters called us savages, and it went on for years. And now some people are saying, oh, really, these guys are not savages. We had our culture, customs, and even great inventions, and as well architectural designs and even structure. So
But Bonga, I think earlier you were saying something about how, what I raised about, his mother being a single mother and she was vilified and exiled, that the culture doesn't completely
Yes.
Yeah.
So in the Zulu culture, it was well structured, right? Like women also like they had vices or what will I say, they had power also in the culture. It was well centered around everyone. It was not just like it was not just the patriarchal system, whereas the women don't have no power. They also were in chieftaincies rules, and there was something they called queen mothers. Queen mothers were also part of the people. They could even remove a chief because they're also in the chief clan, and they also make their decisions were actually heard, and they control agriculture. They're the ones that actually pass the knowledge down, like the oral knowledge. Like I said, it's not really written. So most of these stories we're hearing now were passed by the queen mothers down to the ancestors. So you see, they even control the narrative. So what more power is more than that?
Yeah.
True. So I'm sure Nandi, that's Shaka's mother, must have been a queen mother too, with a lot of powers, with her own servants, with her own wealth and her own, like her own little, maybe I would say palace, but her own little household and all her
because
people
of the kind
serving
of
her,
power
taking care of her. Yes.
Shaka controlled, his mother would have been in those kind of status, and she would have been able to control a lot of things, and also had a lot of influence in the kingdom because women were allowed to. They were not just sided one side.
Something I really admire about Shaka is his military reforms. Yes, like he even invented a spear. I think,
he invented new strategies, not just new ways. Because before the Bantu people, the tribes, right, there were clans under the Bantu people, like the Zulu. They also originated from the Bantu people, which they migrated down south.
Yeah.
So these clans now they usually didn't really fight with like a construct, a type of way. They just fought with numbers. Like, okay, if we have 5,000, you have 10,000, we conquer you. That was it. But now Shaka, when he came, like when he was banished, the clan which he was with his mother, right, he learned so many arts and ways to fight wars. So now coming down, there was a tactic they called the buffalo. The buffalo horn, which was like a like the two pointed shaped spears, and then down to the base. So now the two shaped sharp spears was for the faster people, like the agile, the young youths. They're the ones that will curve you out, while the base was for the able-bodied men. So the moment you're at war and you come off face front to fight them, they have mounted you with the buffalo horn. And before you realize it, they have encircled you. And apart from that, they had customs of ways they move people up ranks. Because before, they were just moving people up ranks in the military based off of clan blood, based off structure. But no, he moved you based, but now you're doing it based off of prowess. Like if you actually gain it, and like each age group, as little as I think in doing your teenage age group, like they already put you in a sector based off of what you can offer the military. So you see those military construct, and that's what really followed his dynasty. That's why he conquered a lot of land, because his military construct was different than anybody has ever seen in that part of Africa.
Wow, so he was a reformer, a pioneer.
He was a reformer.
A mighty warrior.
Yes.
And I think it takes a whole lot of intelligence for him to be able to have formulated that kind of, a strategy, for his mission and position of his men. Because trust me, that is intelligence on roller coasters, if I can call it that. Because, it's really intelligent, and it really, well thought of. The scientific process, especially with how you described the buffalo horn, when they attack, they now encircle all of them. Before they capture their enemies. It showed he was really, really exposed, I guess, maybe while they were being exiled, and his training and exposure while they were sojourning around that kingdom gave him a lot of things to look into, and I'm sure he experimented them, and today the whole world is talking about him.
They say people's intelligence comes from their mother's side, like genetically speaking. Yeah, genetically speaking.
Now intelligence is from the mother.
I heard it's from the father.
Biologically speaking, it comes from the mother's side. And then in addition to that, he was nurtured by his mother's side. So there's nature and
There are
nurture.
also folklore
So we would say that intelligence came from the
his
mother's
mother.
No, there are also folklore that
I guess the mothers fought war.
No, there was folklore that initiated that.
You can implement strategies from real life into warfare, right?
There are documents that initiated that he learned it from the clan of his mother, like through the chief or the clan, right? So he was in the chief. You get the point where I said
mother's
the chief. But he was banished from his clan. So a lot of these strategies he learned it from the chief before he passed away. So yes, that's where he learned all these styles, the fighting techniques, and most of it from his own initiatives. Yes, because he had been showing signs as a toddler as very resilient and violent.
Oh wow!
Yes,
very violent.
He was very violent. So he was put into the military at a very little age. So he picked up all these skills, tracks, and maybe just because of the sheer prowess that he was showing, and that is how he became who he is today, Shaka Zulu.
Okay, talking about Shaka Zulu, back to the way he ruled his people. I'm just curious. He was the way he is because something happened to him. So I'm just wondering, the people around him, because like the story of King Akbar, Jalaluddin. So he was also referred to as a mad king, but when he got married to Joda, he became kind and accommodating. So I wanted to know, did anybody try to show Shaka Zulu love or try to heal him from whatever trauma he was going through, or did they just stay far from him to avoid being
Well,
killed?
we're not there, so we don't know.
And I don't
Maybe
think-
someone
think the
tried
concept-
and failed.
Maybe the concept of trauma, I'm sure it never existed at that time.
Okay.
So they were just like, he is the way he is.
That's
He's
it.
brutal
Okay.
and he's, a warrior.
Yes.
And that's how warriors behave.
And to
So
be
I'm
honest,
sure
it was in their own advantage because he used it for his conquest and he conquered a lot of lands right
And I
down
heard these
to
strategies up
Mozambique.
till dates. People still study them.
People still study
Yeah.
them. A lot of war strategies. So
he must have also been a scientist, I guess, because it takes science for you to come up with
So
strategies
much
like that.
strategy, yes.
smart man.
So with all these things we've learned about Shaka Zulu, his strategy,
Yes.
his deep thinking, his ruthlessness, and just his organization and transformation of the Zulu army and even the Zulu kingdom from just a scattered handful of clans into this formidable entity. Do we think he's a mad king or a mighty warrior?
I think a mixture of both.
Yes.
If you look at, what happened after his mother died when he was in the period of mourning, him coming up with an idea such as that one, death if you are seen happy, people shouldn't drink milk and all of that, and destruction of some certain crops and all that. That's some level of insanity, if you ask me. But a mixture of both, like I've said, with the formation that he put his army through in conquering wars and invasions that they were able to come out successful. That's brilliant. So it's a mixture of both, a warrior at one side, a conqueror at one side, if I can call him that, and a bit or a hint of some kind of madness. If you
I
ask
think
me.
you need madness to be a mighty warrior. Because if people
A
don't
touch of
fear you,
madness.
they can't
A
respect
touch
you.
of madness. Just
So
a
I think,
touch.
yes, that fear was necessary.
But to his own
to
people,
create
not
a persona.
to his own people.
Because if you look at the history, a lot of kings were being murdered. Even him, eventually he was murdered.
Yes.
It's murder after murder. Like you murder a king and take over.
Yes.
So he had to make himself fearless so that even the people that are thinking of murdering him will think twice or have to think deep and
Before they do
strategize.
what
Yes. Eventually, of course, they succeeded. But before then, he made sure that he had created this persona of, okay, I'm fearless, I'm brutal, don't come near me, and all of that. Like, just scare his enemies.
Yes.
So I would say that to be a successful military man, ruler, a bit of madness.
Must
is
be a
ne-
madman.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
entirely,
necessary.
I wouldn't say he was totally a mad king. I believe he was vicious. Yes,
Oh,
he was
interesting.
vicious in the way he did his things. Yes, he took out people in very brutal manner. And depending on the time frame, to be honest, those were like the best ways to go about some things. Depending on the time frame, because some of these places now, like imagine where you say like they kill kings, they take out kings. I have to make you fear me.
Yes.
If I know that my life might be in danger, if you don't fear me, I will make you fear me. And if you see this, whatever he did that created whatever emblem that people look at him for, allowed him to do what he wanted to do. It allowed them to conquer dynasties, to move into kingdoms, take over empires, and however we want to say it right now, it benefited his people.
Yes.
Yes,
So
expanding his kingdom.
in other words, brutality sends a message
Yes,
to
it does.
people in different clans and different kingdoms.
It does.
So it's just like his brutality was a way of letting the rest of the world
God
know
knows.
that, look,
I'm
you don't
sure.
want to mess with me.
Don't
mess
I am
with
brutal
me.
like that. So maybe
Yes.
it was, maybe that's the plan. But I think doing that to your people, you have to have some hint of madness.
Yes, he
to be
was.
able to do that to some people.
Wait, he literally stopped them from falling in love. No pregnant women.
Well, he didn't say don't fall in love, but I
Just
just
don't be
don't want
happy.
to see it.
Maybe
Okay,
didn't want.
fall in
Maybe
love
just
in
didn't want
secret.
anybody
No
lovey-dovey.
PDA, no
Yes.
PDA.
Pregnant women.
No lovey-dovey in the streets. If you must do your lovey-dovey, do it behind closed
Do it
doors,
behind-
or else you feel the wrath.
No, but I really think there's a deep emblem. Like, for instance, now for Shaka Zulu, depending on the kind of leader he was, Even the people, as a people, if is your leader is somebody that actually leads with integrity, humility. When he loses somebody, even the country on his own will mourn, or the kingdom will mourn for him. You understand? It's natural sometimes. So, and now going back to those ages where there was not really construct of democracy. He could do whatever he pleased.
True.
So, for you listeners at home, do you think he was a mad king, or was he a mighty warrior that needed that element of madness to rule an unruly people and just keep things straight and working, make his kingdom mighty and unforgettable? Centuries after, we're still talking about him. So is he a mad king, or actually a really, really mighty warrior?